Hello and welcome to this video on motivation in theory. So by the aim of this presentation, we should be able to explain the ideas of four motivational theorists, Taylor, Mayo, Maslow and Hertzberg. And we should be able to link their ideas to businesses' attempts to increase employee motivation. So these four academics presented classic theories of motivation. So they were academics who studied and looked at what made a motivated workforce from an academic perspective, doing experiments and studies, and then they came up with theories that would help businesses to motivate their workforce. We have Taylor, who came up with a scientific management theory, Mayo, the human relations theory, Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, and Hertzberg's two-factor theory. So we're going to go through these, look at how they came up and some of the pros and cons of their conclusions. So let's start off with Taylor and his scientific management theory. Now this is a quote from Taylor about workforce. We do not want any initiative. All we want is them to obey the orders we give them, do what we say, and do it quick. So his theory suggested that in order to have the greatest output for workers, the most motivated, the hardest working, this is what we should do. The first stage is to study the jobs that the workers are doing. So identify the most efficient methods of production. So what exactly are the roles, who does it well, and study it. Then we've got to identify the most efficient workers and see why they are so good. Why do these particular workers have such high productivity? And then we need to train the rest of the workforce to work like the best. And he would use this using a time and motion study. So he would actually time the workers doing the task and look at ergonomically, look at their bodies and what they were doing to see how they were performing. Workers should be closely supervised to make sure they complete tasks as directed. He also believed in a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. So he didn't believe that workers should be poorly paid. He actually believed that workers should be paid well, but only if they worked well. So he recommended the following motivational financial techniques: paying workers piece rate and paying workers commission. And Taylor came up with this study through studying a steel company. So he spent a lot of time studying people who were shoveling coal. And he looked at how employees were shoveling the coal, and he looked at how much each shovel could carry. He then redesigned the shovels to match the fuel load weight, and he found that he increased the amount of coal that workers could shovel from 16 tons a day to 59 tons a day. And as a result, he could reduce the number of workers from 500 to 140. So it had a huge impact in terms of efficiency for the business. There are, however, some problems with Taylor's theory. Is there really one best way? And particularly, to what extent are people motivated by money? A lot of this was taken on board by car manufacturers. So Henry Ford, who made the Model T Ford, took a lot of this on board and used these approaches, so piece rate and identifying who was good at what and giving them one job and training them at it. But it can be a bit alienating. This is really a method of specialization as well, monotonous, alienating. People working in factories being paid for fairly menial jobs. Now let's move on to Mayo and look at his human relations theory. So this came about from a study he did into an electricity company called the Hawthorne Works Western Electric Company. And this was famously known as the Hawthorne experiments. And they were looking at trying to identify what would motivate staff, and they changed the following things: financial incentives, they changed rest periods, they changed hours of work, they changed lighting and heating conditions. And the aim was to analyze the effects of these changes on labor productivity. And they did it based on a group of 6 women assembling telephone parts. But it was found that whatever they changed, output kept rising. Even when conditions were returned to the original conditions, output was still higher. And so what he actually concluded was that actually, because these women had had attention paid on them by managers and were asking their opinion and how are you feeling and what's working well and what's not working well, just the fact that managers paid attention to them and they were able to work in a part of a cohesive team they had better morale and better productivity. So he argued, or his theory suggests, that motivation can be improved by paying an interest in workers through consultation and communication, through teamwork, through giving workers some degree of autonomy and aligning the goals of the team with the goals of the organization. However, again, there are some problems with this theory. Is it really possible to align worker and managerial goals? Managers maybe want you to work as hard as possible, but do really workers want to do that? Maybe they want more interested in a work-life balance. And groups also may form negative norms, so their way of operating and behaving might not always be positive. You can develop bad habits. Now we move on to Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. And here we can see the hierarchy of needs on the right-hand side. And his theory suggested that in order to motivate people, you need to offer them an incentive to meet more of their needs. So here he created a pyramid with people's basic needs at the bottom. So for example, physiological and safety. Then psychological needs, belongingness and love, and improved self-esteem. And then the very top, highest needs being met, self-actualization, achieving one's full potential. And he argued that if you had an employee down here and their physiological needs were being met, how could you motivate them? Well, he would suggest that an employee down here whose basic needs were being met would work harder if they felt they could then meet, through working harder, their safety needs. So if we design the job in such a way that if they were to work hard, they could then progress to having their next level of needs met, then this would motivate them. And once they have those needs met, can we offer them an incentive, design the job at the next level up perhaps, that would encourage them to work harder again so they could become meet their belongingness and love needs. So that was the basic theory, and then businesses can think of ways in which to meet them. So motivation can be improved by offering different incentives to workers in order to help them fulfill each need in turn and progress up the hierarchy. For example, if we offered workers reasonable pay, this will enable them to get food, water, warmth, rest, shelter. But if we want to motivate them, maybe if we offered them job security, maybe like a permanent contract, they'd feel safer. So if we offer them job security, if they work hard, this will motivate them. But once they've got that, how do we motivate someone who feels safe? Well, we can try and motivate them by giving them the chance to have more intimate relationships or develop stronger friendship groups. So perhaps designing a new job that involved teamwork would again motivate them to work harder if that was the prize. Likewise, to feel good about themselves, their self-esteem, we could perhaps offer them promotion or rewards. If you work hard, you'll get a promotion, and this would meet their self-esteem needs. If they've got their self-esteem needs met, what could we do as a business to offer them to work hard? Well, again, something to get to their next level up. We can maybe empower them, give them more authority and responsibility for designing and carrying out their jobs. Again, some problems with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Does everyone satisfy needs in this order? Might creative individuals prioritize self-actualization over security? Does everyone have their orders in the same direction? And does everyone want to achieve self-actualization? Finally, we're going to look at Hertzberg and his two-factor theory. And he came up with the theory that identified two areas: hygiene factors, first of all, and then motivating factors. Now, hygiene factors he described as things that were part of the workplace that if they weren't there, workers would be dissatisfied. So to put it very bluntly, if we didn't get these right, pay, working conditions, job security, relation with management, our workers would be really quite annoyed and wouldn't want to come to work or wouldn't want to work for us. They'd be dissatisfied, annoyed. But actually, just paying them and having good working conditions and job security won't really motivate them to go the extra mile, really won't motivate them much to really push themselves. He identified another range of factors that if these were addressed, then these would actually serve to motivate people. For example, a sense of achievement, responsibility, recognition for good work, opportunity for promotion, the nature of the job itself. He argued that increasing the motivators could increase productivity. So really he split it into two camps. On the left-hand side, if these are not there, the hygiene factors, then workers will be dissatisfied and productivity might fall. On the right-hand side, if we really want to increase productivity rather than prevent it from falling, we need to identify these motivating factors and design the job that includes some of these. Again, problems with the two-factor theory. His research was really based on groups of professionals, and so can the same ideas be applied to all jobs, particularly low-skilled manual or temporary work? So in this video, we've looked at the ideas of Taylor, Mayo, Maslow, and Herzberg, and we've linked their ideas about how to motivate the workforce, their theoretical approaches to motivation, to businesses' attempts to increase employee motivation. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.